Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to this week's edition of the Principal's Office. I am so glad that you are here. So glad that you can join me. I've been in this series where I've been talking about school culture and how you can build school culture, that extends beyond the school building. And I want to just say during the time of this recording earlier today, and I'm gonna just adjust my camera. I heard of a school shooting that occurred in Dallas, Texas. And so my condolences and my heart goes out to the teachers, the administrators, the parents, and all of the students that are involved because we know that's a tragic situation. Based on the headlines, it occurred, during an altercation the student was in, and then that student fled. So it is my hope that the student is caught but treated fairly and not harshly, because we don't know the particulars. We don't know the mental or emotional state the student was in, if they felt like they were defending themselves or whatever the case may be. And so I may do something special just to talk about how do you handle, one, a situation like that in the moment, but two, how do you help your students as well as the teachers recover from that. It can't be that we're so numb to it that we just go back, to what we think is normal. It has to be addressed, but it has to be addressed strategically and with care. And so, but that's part of why I believe what I'm talking about is so important, because we have to be able to build a school culture that extends the school day, extends beyond the school building, and it's where one that everybody feels safe and comfortable with being in the school and being outside of the school, and students learn to make good decisions with when adults are not around, because that's when it's most important. Anybody can do the right thing. Any student can do the right thing in front of an adult, but where it matters most is how we helping them to make decisions when we're not around. Now, I'm not saying we're going to take the place of the parent or try to parent. That's not our job, but we can be that positive influence. So today I'm talking about MTSSB, or multi-tier systems of support, specifically for behavior. In your school building, you should have a multi-tiered system of support, not just for academics to help students who may be struggling in particular content areas, but also in behavior. And a lot of times people do not think about MTSSB until they need to correct unwanted behavior or correct undesired behavior, and by then it's too late. So you want to be proactive, and you want to be able to create something that helps set the foundation for the school building. And so those of you who are watching me on either Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube, you're going to be able to see this presentation. For all of you watching me on IG, hello. This is my first time actually going live on IG simultaneously. I'm glad to see you guys, and so feel free to put your comments in the chat as well. If you would like to get a copy of the presentation, DM me the word MTSSB or the acronym MTSSB, and then I will email you a link to download this presentation as a PDF so you can refer back to it and use it as a resource. Now, always remember to do a couple of things: like, share, comment on this video, save it so that you can refer back to it. All right, so let's jump into this. And those of you who can see my screen, I'm about to share it, and I'm about to jump into presentation mode for this presentation, because I want you to be able to see what I'm talking about. Okay, so the main thing is multi-tier system of support is a layered behavioral support system or strategy that you use. It's essential and foundation to the culture, because a lot of times, like I said, people think about it on the back end. They think about it from a reactive standpoint, but you want to be proactive. You don't want to start thinking about incentives and behavior plans after a kid has been acting out or so much that it's interrupting instruction. Because remember, you not only have to think about the needs of that one child, but you also have to think about the needs of the other 27 to 30 students that are in that classroom. and you don't want their instruction to be negatively impacted as well. So you don't want to wait till there's a problem to try to create something. That's like learning how to swim in the middle after falling in the ocean. That's not the time to do it. So when you create and frame this thing, remember it's your foundation. And so as your foundation, those layers that you put in there should be proactive and not just reactive, like I just said. And you want to make sure that that the measures in those layers are able to correct unwanted behavior. But here is the ninja tip. How you address unwanted behavior will speak volumes to the students. They will either think you don't like them all of a sudden or that you're mad at them. So your behavior correction cannot be to the point where it's so stern, harsh, cut and dry, where it doesn't feel caring. Now let me tell you this. It can't be so caring that that the reality of the correction doesn't happen either. So you have to find that balance between demonstrating care but recognizing you have to correct this behavior, because if it's too soft, it's not going to be taken seriously, depending on the culture of the students, of the community and the students that you're working with. Because some students, if you're too soft, they're just not going to connect with you anyway, because they live in the neighborhood where they have to be tough. All right, so here it is. MTSSB, you want to address unwanted behavior by still demonstrating care. You don't want to make sure where the corrections are harsh. You don't want them to jump from one extreme to the next. Oh, you just did this. I did a behavior plan for 2 weeks. Now all of a sudden you need recommendation for services because something must be up. You need to see a psychologist, or we need to get you on an IEP or 504. Don't do that, because if you jump from one extreme to the next without adding in those layers, like I said, it communicates volumes, and the parents as well as the kid may think you don't like them. And so, and they would, because as a principal, I've gotten many calls from parents who would say, that teacher doesn't like my child. That teacher's picking on my child. The only time they call me is when the kid's in trouble. So you want to have these layers. And when you design the layers, you want to think about the total student experience. If we were in business, I would call it the customer experience. But because we're dealing with kids, I call it the student experience. Think about the total student experience. What do you want the kids to experience, or each child to experience, the moment they see an adult representative of the school? Whether that's the bus driver, whether that's the teachers who are greeting them as they get out of the cars or get off the bus onto the school grounds. Think about that moment all the way until they leave. Now, the bus driver piece is a little complicated, because depending on how your district is set up, you may be able to meet with them to provide them some training, and you may not. Or your district representative may be able to do that, or they may not. It just all depends on the dynamic of your buses, especially if you're in charter. Those bus drivers are not meeting with you. It just is what it is. But if you're in a traditional public, your bus drivers may meet with you, because what I have found is that some issues, I won't say a lot, but I'll say some issues that students brought into the classroom, especially first thing in the morning, was because something happened at the bus stop, or they had something happen on the bus with another student, or something happened on the bus with an adult. There were many times where I switched the kid's bus stop simply because the student was not connecting well with the adult bus driver. Because there were times the student was wrong and they were just flat out disrespectful. But then there were other times when the actual adult was the problem, because the adult was fussing at the child and, that kind of thing, as if they were their own child, which I understand. But some kids don't respond well to that, because they're going to say, you're not my mama. You're not my daddy. Why are you talking to me like that? And then they're going to try to give it back to you. And then it escalates. And so when you think about the experience, think about how you want them to feel and be treated from the moment they are seen. Now, if you don't have control or you can't put a direct input in with the bus drivers, start with how they should be greeted when they are seen once they enter school grounds. Everybody saying hi, smiling to them. I'm glad, smiling at them, saying, I'm glad to see you, how you are greeting them. And when you greet them, you have to be aware. And so think about how are the adults demonstrating care while being aware, because you can catch some stuff that you can tell as you get to know your students what kind of mood or if something happens, so you can catch it right then at the beginning. That's part of this multi-layered of support, because right then when you're creating a great experience, if you see something is off, you can at that point talk to them or send them to a trusted adult that they trust and have relationship with, to talk to them to help them get focused for the day. There's many times I've talked to students in the morning, even before I've done announcements, or sometimes after, because I kept my announcement time. I kept it at the same time every day and was consistent. And I would just talk to them, be like, hey, we got to focus up. Don't worry about that. Or, and help them talk through whatever happened. They may have got yelled at in the car, or somebody said something to them, a sibling did something to them, whatever the case may be. And so you start with them being greeted, you can catch some stuff, and then it keeps going. Now, the experience for the student starts from the moment they are greeted and it ends at the time that they are leaving. And so you want to make sure that when you hold on one second, let me adjust so this could be seen better. There you go. All right, so you want to make sure that at the end of that student experience, the in-between steps are essential and adjusted to meet the needs of each individual student. It is like having a positive behavior plan for every kid, meaning that your system is designed where teachers can get to know the students and build that know, like, and trust, and then they can find out what motivates them and make that a part of what they do. Now, what motivates one kid is not going to motivate them all. So class parties and fun Fridays, those things are good. Stickers, pencils, I used to give kids a sticker and a pencil on their birthday and say their name and say happy birthday to them across the announcements. They loved it. And then at the high school, we would say their name, say happy birthday to them across the announcements, except this time, instead of a sticker and pencil, they came for some hot Cheetos. And so, just that's a part of the experience. And so you want to start with that, but ends, you have those layers in between, and it ends with referral for outside services as the absolute last result. So in between, now I don't have a slide for this because it gets a lot deeper than what I'm gonna just tell you. So I'm gonna just say it to you very quickly. Now, in between, after it starts with your greeting, you should have in there morning meetings should be mandatory. Then it should be, your teacher should be reminding students of expectations for every activity they do right before they're going to do it. It should take 2 minutes. It's not a lecture. Remember the rules. It's here's how we do group work. Here's how we do partner work. Here's how I need you to work independently. Here's how you can ask for help during this time. And then it continues with the know, like, and trust. Teachers have to build that. You have to build the know, like, and trust, and using what they like as incentives. And then in that layer, you put that incentive plan, and then you may have to move to a behavior plan when you see consistent unwanted behavior. That behavior plan has to include you talking to them to figure out what's going on. It has to include the know, like, and trust, you spending time with them spending time with you, or them getting special rewards or something like that. It includes all of that in that behavior plan. Once you get to the behavior plan stage, you definitely want to communicate with the parent to let them know, here's what I'm seeing, here's the consistent issue, here's what I'm doing about it. Can you support me in this? Can you reinforce this? What are some things that you are noticing at home? What are some things that you use at home to motivate them besides avoidance of punishment. And so include that in your plan. Now, you may have to do a peer relationship, give them a buddy to help hold them accountable, somebody who's a positive influence, not somebody who's going to act up along with them, because that's not a good situation. And then with the next thing you may have to do is then add in some extra social emotional learning time, meaning they may have to be a part of a SEL group that's different from the morning meeting to give them those extra skills and help them process what's going on. Your next layer could be, if you have one, a school social worker, in a group and session, and then another layer above that, social worker one-on-one, and then finally referral. So that was the quick rundown of how you can use that multi-tier system of support. And it was very extreme. It was very quick, extremely quick, because that's actually a class that I do. And so I normally teach this as a part of the class that I do for aspiring school leaders. And so, but I'll tell you this, if you want what I shared tonight, minus the part, that quick rundown, just those other parts that are on the PowerPoint, remember, DM me the acronym MTSSB. You put a hyphen in there and I will email you the PDF. Now, if you're interested in taking this and having a masterclass or a session, people call them master classes or whatnot, but if you're interested in having this session where I can run through this framework that I took a year to design, because I was at a school that was functioning very well when I arrived, but they didn't have anything for student behavior, and they struggled balancing, their discipline as far as when to use punishment and other consequences with, their implementation of, restorative practices and, and all of that kind of thing. They had trouble balancing that. And so I was skilled and able to really help them find that balance between restorative practices and, positive behavior practices, along with, not just the natural consequences, but some real consequences along. And I took a year to develop this tier support system for that school so that kids weren't constantly being over referred to things, as well as kids were not, suspended all the time or patted on the back for major behavior. There was a great balance. So if you are interested in that class for that session, let me know, and I'll be glad to host it with you and your leadership team to help you put these structures in place, because right now it is super important to build your school culture. Kids haven't been in the building for a long time, prior to now, and plus it's just with everything that's going on, kids are acting bananas. And so you want to make sure that you are able to lead, and that's what I'm saying. You want to lead, whether you're a principal, aspiring principal, or a teacher. You can lead. You can be the person of influence to help impact these students' lives, to make this environment conducive for them to learn, for them to grow, and for them to be safe. All right, so those of you who are watching me, you can see the link is on your screen. For those of you on IG, the link is jamalmaxsam.org/strategy session. You can go directly there and claim your time with me so we can set this up and I can talk about your needs and help you tailor this information. If you're interested in the one session, the one development about how to build this out for me to teach it and give you the exact step-by-step on how to build it out, let me know that by sending me a message and say you want help building out your MTSS system. And with that, I will see you possibly next week. IG, you will not see me next week. Those of you who are on the other platforms, you may see me next week. Yeah, that's it for the principal's office. And I want you to remember to always lead like a champion. Bye-bye. Oops.